Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Game Changer Mentality Podcast. I am your host, Rodney Flowers, best-selling author, keynote speaker, and resilience trainer. And as always, I'm excited about today's show. I have Kim Daly in the studio with me today. She's America's top franchise consultant. She has spent the last 20 years helping people achieve financial freedom by enabling them to find the perfect franchise opportunity. Her skills for matching a client's background, interest, skills, finances, and life goals to the ideal opportunity has made her one of the top franchise consultants in the country. Today, we are here to pick her brain and gain some insight into what can seem like a daunting process, deciding on the perfect franchise to enable you to gain financial freedom. So let's welcome Miss Kim Daly to the Game Changer Mentality Podcast. Welcome to the show, Kim.
Thank you, Rodney. I'm very excited to be here. I'm very humbled to be here based on your past guest list.
Kim, it's an honor to have you. Thank you for being such a fan of the show. You share some sentiment about the show and how much you've enjoyed it. And, I'm really grateful for those words and I'm delighted to have you here. I'm actually impressed by you. I myself wanted to start a franchise, several years ago. I've looked into several of them. One that I remember the most is Stone Cold Creamery. I remember going through that process and actually writing a business plan and doing all the things that they ask you to do in order to qualify and not qualifying for it. And it was one of the most heartbreaking things for me. I was really young, and I'm sure there were some mistakes that I've made that, just from being so young and inexperienced. I think I was in my early 20s when I did that. But it really taught me something. I went back and evaluated that process, and I should have had more of a team around me at that point to kind of help me through the process, and some people that were older, a little bit more experienced. Yeah. But it was a learning experience for me. And so here you are, like if I've known you a little while ago, I might have several franchises by now, right? But it was a wonderful experience. And I'm just grateful for you being the type of person to help people along with it. There's so many ways to win in this game, so many things that we can do to accomplish our goals and dreams. And franchise certainly is one of those ways. And so I'm glad that you are here to help us understand that process and then talk to us about your successes and failures and who you are and how you help people. And so I'm really, really looking forward to the conversation today.
Thank you, Rodney. Yeah, there's so many things I would love to say. I mean, as we were talking before we started recording, and just I know the whole foundation of your show is like not just on, you cover all aspects of like peak performance or, living your best life, right? Personally and professionally and financially and physically. And I mean, all of those things. As I was telling you, I started out as a personal trainer. I was a nutritional biochemist, so I was going to use nutrition to help athletes. So I became a personal trainer in college, and I deviated into franchising, what I thought was deviating into franchising. When I was young, the only thing I really ever wanted to be was a motivational speaker. I grew up in the Miss America pageant organization, and I always had a heart to be a role model and to influence other people and to give back and to serve. But how does one like grow up and become a motivational speaker? So I didn't know what I was going to do. So I decided to become an entrepreneur, and I ended up in franchising because franchising is infinitely easier than starting businesses from scratch. And then here I am all these years later, and I look back and, basically every day I get to inspire people, influence people, motivate people to change their life, start a business, quit their job, build a legacy for their family, invest their money in a tangible asset rather than the stock market. So everything that I do today everything I've done in the past has really led me up to this moment in my life to be able to help other people. And along the way, I've achieved some amazing results that amaze me, broken records and made history in my industry and built very large businesses. And so I'm happy to be here and share some of those stories with you.
Well, let's talk about that, because as someone who is successful as yourself, what would you say are some of the common or one of the most, critical elements about you, or maybe something that you've done or something that you practice that has allowed you to experience this level of success?
The first thing is you have to have big goals, right? I tell all of my candidates, I'd rather you achieve 60% of a big goal than 100% of a small goal, right? Because even if you're only getting 60% of a big goal, it's probably way more than 100% of a small goal. So I'm one of those people that if I read a book, and I read a lot of books, I love personal development. So I am a lifelong student of personal development. That's really what it comes down to, right? And if I read a book that says do something for 30 days, and and they kind of challenge you in the book, like only 1% of you are actually going to do it. I'm like, well, I'm going to be that 1%. So, and I think that it's like taking nuggets from different books that I've read, from different speakers I hear, and just being willing to try. I dare to dream bigger than I probably should. And my dreams always scare me. If I showed you my declaration list, which I have like right here on my desk, my 2021 declarations, I'll tell you about how I've used those I became an international best-selling author last year.
Congratulations.
By declaring it. And so I just dare to dream big, and I dare to believe that I can accomplish anything I set my mind to. I have big, big, big faith. And it's consistency. It's, successful people have successful habits. And so it's developing habits or processes that then you can execute until they are a habit.
Well, you brought up something very important that I want to touch on, and that is the declaration. That's such a powerful tool that gets overlooked as it's not that big of a deal, whatever. But that commitment, that declaration, that promise, if you will, to yourself that this is what I'm declaring and I'm going to maintain integrity on is a powerful thing. And I think it's just that, it's the integrity piece of it, because how many times have you heard, it's the beginning of the year when we're recording this, people have those New Year's resolutions, say I'm going to do this. And then, 3 months into it, after 120 days, it's like, they're not even thinking about that. Like that idea has fallen by the wayside. But when you make a declaration to yourself and stick to it, you're probably 1,000 times, I don't know what the scientific number is, but I can imagine you're more highly likely to maintain or achieve whatever it is that you're declaring if you stick to it, or if you make a declaration to it, if you make that as a practice. One of the elements of a training that I've created is to create a profile of who you want to be. And the very next step after that is make a declaration to yourself that's what you're going to stick to. Like every morning when you wake up and you look in the mirror, who am I going to be today? You made a declaration that you're going to be this person, and you stick to that and you go out your day being that person. So I think that's just a powerful, because I think, sometimes we're looking for these extravagant, profound, very sophisticated and sexy, things to do in order to be successful. But what I found is really fundamental practices and rituals that bring success.
It's always simple. I built the first 7-figure business in my industry and back in 2011. And I did it by focusing on one thing and only one thing for 1 year. 365 days, I committed myself to a prospecting goal. I didn't let myself off the hook. I had no idea that by doing that, what the result would be. I was also at the same time declaring that I had $1 million business. And right before Christmas, when I knew that my year was done, and we added up my commissions, I was $1,004.28. And literally, that was one of the first life-changing moments I had about declaring and having a pretty simple plan. Again, I did not have it completely mapped out because I didn't know. I have it mapped out now, and I have a science now that I can repeat and I can teach other people and I can share. But the first time I did it, it was purely based on faith and consistent action every single day, whether I wanted to or not, whether I felt like it or not, following through.
So what is your strategy for discipline? How do you maintain such disciplinary action?
oh, I have goals I want to achieve. And I mean, it's faith. You have to believe that if you're doing the right things every day, you're going to get where you want to be. I mean, so I want to go back to the declaration thing because I want to tell you about how I used declarations last year in 2018, because it brings so many things to light. So in 2018, I was declaring that I wanted to write a book. I had been asked, a publisher had said, you know, you're an expert in your industry, you're well recognized, we'd like to publish your book. And I was like, write a book? I don't think I want to write a book. But as soon as I said that, I knew that was the wrong answer. So I was like really kind of bummed at myself. So I decided to write it as a declaration that I am a best-selling author, but because I dream really, really big and an author just didn't sound big enough, I decided to declare that I was an international. I've never even written a book, but that's how big I go. It's like kind of dumb. I am an international best-selling author. So my intention when I was declaring that every day back in 2018 was to inspire me to sit down and write that book. So in 2019, when I went to write my declarations for 2019, I was not inspired to write the book, so I decided to take it off my declarations. I'll get back to that one later. So this past July in 2020, a publisher from the UK found me and said, we're publishing a book with experts from franchising and we'd like you to participate. And I said, okay, you know, it's only one chapter, no problem. So when I was handing in my chapter, we were doing a Zoom call and he said to me, now get ready. Every book that we've published has gone on to become an international best-selling book. And when he said it, like I was not correlating contributing a chapter in a book to my declaration of writing a book and becoming an international bestseller. I literally started laughing so hard. Tears were coming down my eyes. He's like, you're like crazy lady. I had to tell him, I said, I already know this book is going to be an international best-selling book. And it launched on September 4th. And 1 week later, it had been published in like 12 languages. Over 300,000 copies were sold worldwide, and it became an international best-selling book, #1 in its category, like all over the world. And so I manifested that simply by declaring. I mean, that's how great God is. I didn't have a plan. I just declared, as he told us to declare who we are in him. I declared it. And my dreams were way smaller. God supersized that one and made it happen fast.
And so how has that changed your life?
It changed my life because it's like, are you kidding me? I can say I'm an international best-selling author and I never even wrote a book. So it makes you step back and go, whoa, look how powerful our words are. Right? And you have to back up your words to your thoughts because your words only come out of your mouth after they were thoughts in your head. Right? So I know you interviewed, you had a podcast interview where thoughts are things, and that is so true. And it's everything now. Everything I have really disciplined my mind more since achieving that, since that moment. It really, every single thing that comes out of my mouth, you become very aware of and even the things you think about when you're like, wow, look how much my mind wants to go to like negativity. If I'm not stressed out and then all of a sudden I start paying attention to what I'm thinking about, I'm like, wow, why is my brain going to something negative, right? And correcting that and disciplining yourself to think positive thoughts, to speak positive thoughts, because the things we speak about, the things we think about, the things we speak about become the life that we live.
So we think our way out of some of the things that we want, huh?
We definitely do. Yeah, and I think if you're in conflict, so as I've studied even more the science of how this actually works,
sure.
When you're in conflict, when you say you want something, but yet your actions are contrary, right? The universe echoes what it's receiving from us. And so if you're unclear, then you're only going to get unclear results. You may sometime get the result you want, but then you may sabotage yourself, right? So you have to sort of step back and recognize, why am I not getting the breakthrough? It's something that you're doing. And then really just trying to stay more focused on the positive. It's really hard to do, though. I mean, some things are really hard. I have a few things in my life that I've struggled with for years. I have a double vision problem, and I firmly believe this can be turned around with, it's an incorrect thought pattern. And I'm determined to keep going until I can see the world clearly.
That's awesome. I think we allow certain things to come into our minds and we process them. Certain things that are negative, certain things that don't serve us. We process them and we place them or we apply them to some of the goals and dreams that we may have. Then that prevents us from taking action on those goals and dreams. Maybe something happened over here, something happened over there. And we like to play safe. We don't like to step out on faith. Stepping out on faith is a scary thing. But the thing about it is,
back to franchising. I mean, that's exactly why I have a business, because the vast majority of people who think about owning a business, the second they start doing some exploration, they talk themselves out of it. They'll I want to use your service. And then they'll argue with me about now that, 1 week in, they're an expert. And I'm like, wait a second, like preconceived notions, assumptions they're making. And I'm like, look, so their whole reason that a franchise consultant exists is to help people go through the exploratory process successfully. And that can mean successfully completing it and saying, no, I'm not going to buy a franchise. It doesn't have to be a yes to make it a successful process. But that's why I have a business, to help people. I challenge people's thoughts. I help them set goals and really get clear about why they want a business and what they're going to use the business for. Like, are you going to build something that you want to sell in 5 to 7 years, or are you building a business that you want to pass on as a legacy? Because that will impact, or should impact, the selection of the business. Many times people think about owning a business, they think about what they know, they think about what their community may need, they think about their experience. And I'm here to say that it doesn't matter if you don't know anything about it. You absolutely don't need any experience to be successful. That's why you're buying a franchise, right? And it can be something that's completely unrelated to anything you've ever done before. The business is the vehicle that's going to drive your life to this new place. So I'm infinitely more interested in where you want to end up and what that time frame is and what kind of style you want to arrive in. Do you want to be, cruising down the highway in the back of a Texas Cadillac, that big Suburban, or do you want to be hair on fire, no helmet on the back of a motorcycle, cruising in the fast lane on the highway? So there's all kinds of investments for all types of investors. And my job is to gather all of those details, then go do the research. And with my knowledge of the industry and my relationships in franchising, bring the top 3 to 5 options to a candidate and then coach them through their thought process and the due diligence process so that they know they're asking the right questions, talking to the right people. If they need financing, I am the resource for all of that so that then they can complete their due diligence. My 2 promises to my candidates are that you will be competent in the due diligence that you're doing so that you can be confident in your final answer.
So what are the characteristics you are looking for?
I'm looking for a measure of pain or the desire to grow. So that's it. There's no, I don't need people to have an MBA. I don't need you to have prior experience. As I've said, we're motivated for change, right? Usually by pain. Most people will wait until they lose their job to really then explore this dream that's been in their heart since college, to own a business, sadly, right? But it's like you said, which got me off on this tangent, is it's easier to play it safe. I'm not judging anybody. It's easier to just remain a little complacent. And then what happens? Life happens. You get married, you have kids, you have a mortgage, you have bills, and you can't just do something crazy like walk away from your job and to go start a business, right? You have responsibilities. But the cool thing about franchising is that if you invest in the right franchise business, you don't have to quit your job. You can do it both. You can have 1 foot in corporate America and 1 foot in your investment. And once that investment can then support your lifestyle, then you can exit corporate life on your own terms.
Well, let's talk about that, because I think some people are afraid of the time commitment. They may feel that they don't have the time to commit to, building a successful franchise.
Yep, it depends on there are, again, just like there are all kinds of investments for risk tolerance. And what I mean by that is, if you're looking for something that's really stable and tried and true, like Supercuts, not super sexy, but it's like a Honda. It's always going to hold its value. You always need a haircut. If the economy turns, they're really going to want a cheap haircut. Now, if you're more of a gambler, you might say, yeah, but what about that Orange Theory fitness thing, Kim, right? So that's a little more high risk because eventually are people going to get over it? Probably. But does that mean make it a bad investment? No, because in the 10 or 15 years that it has its window, people make tons of money, right? So again, it's understanding what you're using this investment for and being able to have the vision to get in on the early side and ride that wave up if it is something more trendy, and then to cash out before it kind of reaches its peak. Yeah.
Wow. Really, really good questions. And I think what you're describing is the strategy. I love that you're sort of bringing this up because a lot of times we don't take the time just to go through this process, to strategize. And I want to win, but I don't think I can win, so I'm not going to do it. Instead of, how can I win? What would be a way we could win? Let's really consider the options. And it's really, you're spending time with this thing, kind of, sort of, thinking it through. But you got to have a right mindset to even do that. I think a lot of times we stop at a certain point. We don't take this is the extra step. But, that's really having a mindset to win. We were talking earlier before we started the show or we started recording. There's multiple ways to win. There's multiple ways to get to where you want to go. You want to explore every option and find the one that works best for you.
Yeah. And when I build a model and look at, we're going to talk about not just your risk tolerance, but we're going to talk about your day-to-day work-life balance, the types of people that you want to create jobs for, if you want to create jobs. We're going to talk about the physical structure. Is your business home base or does it run from a retail or an industrial office? I get people visualizing are you going to start with one truck and one tech and, in a big territory that over time you're going to have 10 trucks and 10 technicians, like in a pest control kind of a company? Again, or do you like the idea of having a retail establishment like the food and retail that everybody thinks of when they think franchising, or an Orange Theory or something like that, but where you open your doors and people are coming to you? And that's going to be, we look at what they can afford to invest in and their skill set, because the level of investment in a franchise is correlated to the owner's skill and the time commitment necessary to run a particular type of business. So I think you asked me this before. Some businesses require owners to be very full-time. What does that mean? Well, it means as much as the business needs. Probably 40 hours a week and then some, until you've got the right, system, until everything is up and running. And then other businesses, when I say a semi-absentee investment, that typically means 10 to 15 hours a week, even from day one, because it's going to be a manager-run business. In franchising, we use the expression, you're working on your business while your employees work in your business. So the whole idea of a franchise is that you're buying a system, you're buying a proven business model, you're buying technology, you're buying marketing, you're buying support, you're buying training. That's what you're paying for when you pay a franchise fee. And all that equates to is leverage, right? So that entrepreneur who wants to go out there and start a business from scratch may spend 5 years trying to get that business up and profitable, right? And that's why 90% of small businesses fail. It just takes a really long time because you're making it up as you go. But I just want to stop right there.
I want to stop right there because you made a certain point that I want to stress, and you talked about why 9 out of 10 businesses fail, because a lot of people hear that stat and they stop automatically. I don't want to take that risk without really understanding what we're talking about here, because that stat, it applies, but maybe that's not the most accurate stat for a franchise. So for someone that's thinking about a franchise, and they hear that stat, I just want them to know that, hey, you're making a really good point about what you're getting from a franchise versus a business, like mine, started from the ground up, grassroots type of, or bootstrap type of business. It takes longer. It takes, because you got to put all those structures in place. Whereas with a franchise, you're buying the structure, you're buying the template, the blueprint, if you will, for that particular business that's that's tried over and over. It's like the cookie cutter. This works, so I'm going to buy that. I'm going to buy that process.
Going back to what I was saying before was that, I can take an entrepreneur who maybe takes 3 to 5 years to build out one location and get that business up and going. And I can take a franchisee with a proven business plan, and that franchisee can own 5 locations in 5 years, right? So when we talk about building wealth through franchising, that's what I mean. It's the ability to scale much faster, because from day one, we're executing on a proven plan versus that entrepreneur who has to create and then figure out what that proven plan really is over time. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. It does.
So my service is free because I get paid by the franchisors to do all their prospecting, if you will, to pre-qualify candidates. And because imagine if you spend time with Kim Daly, and I've, done at least an hour-long interview with you, I've gathered your net worth through a questionnaire, I figured out kind of what your goals and interests are, and we know that you're motivated, we know you live in a territory the franchisor has open and deems viable, we know you're financially qualified. So by the time you get to the franchisor's desk, you are that motivated and that ready to learn about their particular business. And because I'm also going to be me and challenge your thought process to keep your mind open and make sure that you're looking at businesses that hit you from left field that you never saw coming, right? That's my favorite thing. People think, oh, I think I'm interested in this. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just keep your mind open and cast a wide net. And I mean, in one model, I could show an insulation company, a dog grooming company, and a automotive company, and it's seemingly the things have nothing in common, but what they do have in common are those common characteristics that we outlined: a simple business, a small team of employees, a marketing plan that drives customers to me, a real estate location, or, those characteristics we've outlined. When you look at the core characteristics of each business, that's where they'll all align. But the widgets, really, it doesn't matter. Widgets don't make people successful or happy. Leadership from franchisors, that's adaptable. We saw that in 2020. That is a culture of abundance, and that is a culture of, we will get through this. That leadership is the number one thing that people are buying in a franchise, but then they're buying that proven business plan and they're buying that leverage, again, so that they can scale quickly and get to that point where they're making money and they're not enslaved to the operation of the business. That wealth definition being both money and time, right? Rich people have money, wealthy people have time to spend their money.
I like the way you put that. And so given that we're living in a more virtual environment, how has that affected the franchise industry?
Yeah. So lucky for me, I've been a consultant for 19 years, and I really have always focused people on businesses with low fixed costs, so when you look at the businesses that were the hardest hit last year, they're the businesses that when people weren't coming in, we still had really big bills to pay, right? And there was PPP money and things like that. But for the vast majority of my tenure, I've helped people get into low fixed cost businesses, which means, well, even if no one's coming in, we're not bleeding to keep our doors open. I do a lot of service. I love service. It can be home-based. It can be from an office. It can be from a retail location. It doesn't matter, but low fixed costs. We really saw a switch in what people were investing in, because people were still investing in businesses in 2020. I mean, I had the same year in 2019 as I did in 2020. Some franchisors had record years last year. I was happy to just be on par with where I was the year before. But some franchises like The Lawn Doctor, which is a 55-year-old franchise brand, they had their best year ever in 2020. I mean, go figure. So the essential services were thriving. Businesses that catered to homeowners were thriving. Cleaning services were thriving. And even some of my med spas and my the Lash Lounge, and they had record-breaking months once quarantine was over and women could come back out or men could come back out. And, how they justify that, I don't know. I mean, I've heard them say, look, we think it's from pent-up demand. Having a little Botox or a little eyelash extension or whatever is a simple way to make yourself feel better. And Lord knows we were all looking for things to do to make ourselves feel better about our world last year. So it's what you would think from the outside, wow, starting a business would be a really scary time, or this is really not the best time to be starting a business. It's not actually true, because there are a lot of government incentivized financial lending programs. The government loves small business, right? Because small business creates jobs. Small business pay tax. They stimulate local economies. It's a sign of life when new businesses are coming into an area. Mm-hmm. So the government loves that. And so they're always going to be incentivizing that. It's just what we saw people investing in was a little bit different than, say, in 2019, when it was more, more big retail stuff. Last year was a lot more service, essential service, especially.
And so what would you say to someone who's maybe on the fence about franchising, or someone who wants to expand their portfolio of investments? What would you say to those people?
You just have to explore. Don't start exploring because you absolutely know you're going to invest in a franchise. It's the wrong energy to bring to the process. It's too restrictive. I want people to just come relaxed, excited to learn with an open mind, and let the process show you what a business can mean to you. As an investor, as a full-time owner, as an executive owner, as a hands-on worker bee in your business, there's all kinds of businesses for all kinds of people and investors. And again, that's why I have a business, because people on their own tend to think franchising is only one way. And I can show you, people are like, I didn't know that I could, have a business that I didn't have to actually be in working it every day. Yeah. Well, you would if you came to me.
Wow. Well, Kim, I want to say thank you for coming on the show, sharing the franchise world industry with us. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for people, and I think it lowers the risk. When you're starting a business from scratch, as I've done, it's a lot of heavy lifting. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. It takes money. It takes capital. And, unfortunately, you can't franchise the speaking business. Well, no one has actually done that yet that I'm aware of. And, to get into a franchise, I think even if you have started a business, maybe you have a successful business already and you just want to invest, you want to put your money in something that's going to grow and scale and multiply, maybe franchising is the way to go. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. Are there any, myths out there about franchising that you would like?
Oh, there are so many myths. If anybody wants to go to my website, thedailycoach.com, that's my last name, DALY, thedailycoach.com. I mean, I have myth busting videos all over my website. There are a lot of myths, like franchising is an instant ATM machine. Like, people think if I just invest in a franchise, it'll just work. I'm going to be successful. It's like, no, I mean, in order to have $1 million business, this goes back to how the conversation we had at the beginning of the show, you have to grow into that millionaire mindset, right? You have to do the work internally to grow, and then your business will reflect your thoughts and your words, right? It doesn't happen the other way. So many executives, sorry to say men especially, they want to make it all about the numbers and, I'm only going to invest if I can see it happen on paper. And I'm like, I mean, what does that even mean? It's so limiting and it's so rigid, right? Your success in a business should not correlate and will not correlate to what anybody else has ever done. Now, yes, we're going to use what they've done as the blueprint to know, first of all, that we're not jumping off the edge of the cliff, that we're diving into a safety net, right? And we're going to use it because we want to have role models. Why reinvent the wheel, right? If somebody else has already done it, but maybe you're going to do it faster. In my case, you're going to do it bigger. I built the largest business any franchise consultant had ever built. There was no roadmap for that. There is one now. Other consultants have asked me for it and I share it, but I had to create that through faith, through declarations, and then through consistent daily action, right? And that ultimately is what it takes to be successful in a franchise. So the myth that franchising is an easier way to start a business, yes, it is than entrepreneurship because there's that proven plan, or it's simpler, but it's not easy. Simple and easy are different, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's only one myth. There's so many myths. Franchising is for dummies. Truly smart people don't invest in franchises. I'm always like, why? I mean, I work with people that have $30, $40 million net worths who invest in franchise because they know the aggravation of starting business from scratch, and they're just looking for a good place to invest their money to get a return, an expected return or an anticipated return. So all kinds of investors turn to franchising, and you can come in at $30, $40, $50,000, and you can come in at $3, $4, $5 million, right? There's an investment level for every investor out there.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for coming on the show. How can people reach you, Kim, if they wanted to learn more about you or check out your website?
Okay. thedailycoach.com. Again, that's my last name, Daly. thedailycoach.com. I have videos, hundreds of testimonials, video testimonials from some of my amazing candidates as I took my production crew into their businesses. And that's some of the best work the work I'm the most proud of, just hearing their, transformative stories of coming from corporate America or being laid off and then finding freedom in their franchise. But all kinds of resources there. I've been a guest. I've been blessed to be a guest on many podcasts. So all of my podcast interviews are up there.
Awesome.
Resource section. Yep.
Well, I really appreciate you, emphasizing the work that's involved, because I've seen a lot of, advertisements or discussions about, hey, it's easy. Like you said, it's easy or it's less work, or there is no effort. Like you just buy into the franchise and then you get people to work for you, and it sort of happens overnight. And so I really appreciate you just sort of emphasizing that that's not really how it goes, and that there's still effort involved. There's still work that you have to do in order to make, the business successful. We're not exempt from that, by getting into a franchise. And I think that's something, we want to, make sure that we're clear and that's noted, that, we still have to put forth that effort. So thank you for being open and honest about that.
Sure.
All right. Well, so as we wrap up, Kim, this has been a great conversation. Love your energy, by the way. You have so much energy, and it's a breath of fresh air to have you on the show, to experience you. And, you make me want to work with you because your energy is so strong, and you have such big energy. And I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Please.
So as we,
you want to be the first podcast host that interviewed to then go on to buy a franchise. Let me tell you that.
Hey, anything is possible. Anything is possible, Kim. But as we wrap up, I would like to ask you, how can we continuously dominate our challenges, bounce back from adversity, and win in the game of life?
Yeah, that is such a great question. I think it always comes back to knowing who you are. So having clear goals about who you want to be, and then, staying focused and true to those. So making decisions. We all have a finite number of hours in a day, right? So we can't say yes to everything, right? We have to say yes to the things that are the most efficient way for us to get to the next place in our lives, to the next place, to the who we want to be, to the where we want to be. So big goals, a clear focus, and then consistent daily action.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kim, for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you, Rodney.
Well, there you have it, folks. Another successful episode of the Game Changer Mentality podcast. There's many opportunities to be successful, or, like as Kim mentioned, maybe you're in pain, maybe you're hurting, maybe you're looking for a way out. Maybe franchising is your way out. There's so many ways to score. And what does scoring look like? What does winning look like for you? Winning comes in many shapes and forms. And maybe it is entrepreneurship for you. Maybe it's a franchise. I don't know. That's up for you to decide. But, what I love about this show is that here's an option, right? And we want to explore our options. We want to explore them, diligently and really see if it truly is an option for us. Does it work for us? And I believe in turning over every stone, man, and really digging in there and exploring what's possible. Because what we're talking about here is opportunities. That's what I'm trying to provide. I'm trying to provide, tools, skills, and strategies, as well as opportunities for you to win. And so, go to the website, check Kim out, check out the videos, really dive, like, if franchising is something that you think would be beneficial to you based on your lifestyle, based on your pain, based on, where you are in life right now, then it's worth, taking a look and not ruling out the possibility, right? Give yourself the opportunity of possibility, by, taking a look at these things. You never know what can happen. And I really believe in having someone with a lot of energy and that's really passionate about their job, about what they do, to help you, because maybe, this is new for you. Maybe you haven't considered this before, and you need someone that's going to hold your hand and tell you everything you need to know, tell you everything you need to hear. That's going to be real with you, authentic with you, and give you the information you need to make a really good decision. And wants you to succeed, not just trying to sell you and make money off you. And I feel confident that Kim is that person. So check it out. And if it works for you, run with it. Remember, you heard it here first on the Game Changer Mentality Podcast. Until next time, peace and love.